Welcome back everyone, and well done on making it this far. Hopefully you now have a good understanding of the fundamentals of reinforcement learning and are ready to apply this towards training your first AWS DeepRacer model. This is where things get really exciting. You're going to learn how to train the DeepRacer vehicle to drive around the track by itself. How cool is that? So enough talking, let's get into it. The first step is to go into the AWS DeepRacer Student console. On this first page, you should see a button that says Create a Model. This is what we want to do, so click that button. This will start the 6-step process towards creating your DeepRacer model. This first page talks about the process. It's particularly important to note that training is an iterative process. Think of training a model like creating a prototype. You will likely need to go through several iterations, making changes each time, to find the optimal parameters to create the best model. So don't worry if the first model you create isn't super awesome. You can clone it and continue improving it. Click the Next button to proceed to the next screen. Now you need to name your model. Make sure you name your model so that it is both specific and descriptive, as you're likely to have quite a few models across the season. My suggestion is using the track or race name and a version number. So for this demonstration, I'm going to use Summit Speedway V1 as I'm going to be training on that track. And I'll then increment the version number with each clone of the model. Click Next. Here we can select the track we'll use for training our model. Note that the more challenging the track, the more training time you'll need, and possibly also a more complex reward function. As a rule of thumb, if you're competing in the student league, then train on the track which the competition is using. In this example, I'm training for a race on the Summit Speedway track. Click Next. And we can now select the training algorithm to be used. This is where things get really interesting, as we are now exercising some control over how our model learns. In this lesson, we are just concerned about getting a training job up and running, so choose either PPO or SAC, but don't worry too much about which one you select. In a later chapter, we'll deep dive into the two algorithms, how they work, and their differences. Once you've selected an algorithm, click Next. You will now have the opportunity to customize the reward function. This is the piece of code which determines how much the agent should be rewarded for its actions. There are 3 sample reward functions available, and we are also going to deep dive into these in a future video. So for the moment, select Follow the Center Line, which will give you a reward function that will reward the agent for staying close to the center line of the track. This is a great starting reward function, which you can build upon later. Click Next and choose the final options for your model. I suggest you start by doing 60 minutes of training and give your model a description so you can find it later on. In the description, I usually provide a quick summary of the chosen algorithm along with the reward function. If you'd like to participate in the Student League, make sure you also tick the box to submit to the leaderboard. There's no harm in doing this, even for a simple model, so give it a shot. You can submit retrained and new models as many times as you like. When you're ready to start training, click Train Your Model. It'll take a few minutes to start the training, as it's starting up all the back-end services like AWS SageMaker to conduct the training job and AWS RoboMaker to show a 3D simulation of the training. When the training starts, you'll be able to see a simulated video stream of the training. Don't worry if the model is going off track or is doing things it shouldn't. This is all part of the training process. Remember, reinforcement learning is essentially learning by trial and error. The agent is exploring the environment to gather information, called exploration, and will then try and use that information to maximize its reward, called exploitation. Finally, once the training is finished, you can see your model by going into the Models section in the AWS DeepRacer Student console. You can also clone your model to continue training or making modifications, such as improving the reward function. We'll be talking more about cloning and improving the existing model in a future deep dive video. Congratulations on training your first DeepRacer model. In the next module, we'll do a deep dive into the various ways you can customize your training, such as the choice of training algorithm and customization of the reward function. See you then.